This is Sparta!
There's new outrage with the TSA today after a wheelchair-bound mother undergoes a 45-minute security search that her daughter says included the removal of her adult diaper. Just to give you an idea of who they were up against, we share these photos of the 95-year-old, 105-pound Lena Reppert. The incident allegedly happened Saturday as Miss Reppert attempted to board a plane to be with family members during the final stages of her battle with leukemia. So in the interest of safety, how far is too far? We're joined now by the former Managing Director of the National Transportation Safety Board, Peter Goelz, who joins us from Washington. Good afternoon, Peter.
Good afternoon, Martin.
Peter, does a 95-year-old woman need to be patted down like this?
It's pretty outrageous, isn't it? You know, TSA describes aviation safety as a layered approach. And in this case, unfortunately, I'm afraid this grandmother ran into the stupid layer. I mean, this is simply outrageous, and it's unnecessary.
Well, the TSA has released a statement to the media which reads in part, and I'll read it to you. We've reviewed the circumstances involving this screening and determined that our officers acted professionally and according to proper procedure. There's no sense of an apology, no offer of regret in any of that.
No, it's a bureaucracy that really is almost impenetrable. You know, it's got 45,000 screeners. They start out at $16 an hour. You would think that somewhere in the system there's a supervisor who has common sense and has the ability to exercise that common sense. They're really... I can't imagine, Martin, that in the history of aviation threat assessment that there's ever been an assessment that says the terrorists are using, you know, 95-year-old wheelchair-bound grandmothers with their daughters as terrorist weapons. It's outrageous.
Just last week, TSA Chief John Pistole said he was changing the pat-down policy after persistent problems involving children and the elderly. But on the heels of his announcement, this happened. So does that mean that TSA agents are not taking any notice, or that they're simply ignoring what seems to you and I common sense?
Well, this is, as I say, an agency with, you know, 50,000 plus employees, 44,000 screeners. You know, it's like the Queen Mary. It can't change. It can't turn on a dime. But I would say the new director, if he wants to have the continued support of Congress and, more importantly, the continued support of the American public, he'd better do something about this.
You know, what's remarkable, Peter, is that you'll remember the shoe bomber Richard Reed. You'll remember Mr. Abdul Muttalib, Christmas Day last 2010, boarding an aircraft with explosives in his underpants. Both managed to actually get on the jet. Here's a woman that doesn't even get through security without the humiliation of her adult diaper being removed, forcibly removed, and examined in that way. I mean, it beggars belief.
Well, it does imply that, and it may be this sense of political correctness, that everybody's got to be treated the same, despite the level of threat that they may present. And that's where I think the greatest vulnerability of TSA is. They have yet to make a case for how you target their energies. You're wasting your time spending 45 minutes on this type of passenger when, as you clearly pointed out, others who are more obvious a threat are walking through.
I should make a correction there. The TSA is not accepting that they forced her to remove this diaper. She did it according to their request and in the presence of her daughter. But one imagines that her daughter, who was reduced to tears in these circumstances, must have felt completely powerless. She must have been begging them, appealing to their better nature, and yet it fell completely on deaf ears.
Yeah, there seems to be no level of common sense, particularly at the smaller airports. You know, this was not a particularly large international airport. There seems to be no common sense applied. And how the TSA balances what we all want is security, along with a sense of common decency. That's the challenge that this director faces.
Do you call on that director to offer this lady a formal apology of some kind and her family?
Well, wouldn't that be the decent thing to do? Of course he should.
Peter Goelz in Washington, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Martin.